Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Jonathan here, and this is Unity Game Programming for Beginners. In this video, we're going to continue building our console Pong game, and this time we're going to be exploring Booleans and integers. Now, integers in C# are always whole numbers, and unless you say otherwise, they're always going to have a default value of 0, but you can easily change that to anything you want as long as it's a whole number. Booleans are always true or false statements, so they're really good for checking if a certain condition is met or whether it isn't. And we can call other methods, which are those blocks of code, those things between the squiggly brackets, by writing the method name followed by an open, close parentheses, and a semicolon. So things don't have to go in start or update, they can go anywhere we want, and we're going to take a look at using all of this right now. So let's hop over into Unity. Okay, picking up where we left off, I'm going to reopen my console Pong game, and we are going to start taking a look at how we can send this ball back and forth. So right now we said the ball goes to the computer and it scores because the computer is a noob, or that the ball goes to the player. So we're going to change this around a little bit and say, instead of declaring whether we score or not, we're just going to say the ball goes towards the player, and the ball goes towards the computer. Now what we're going to have to do is actually check to see if this is going to score or not. So the way we're going to do this is by calling a separate method. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to write a method name, and again, these method names are the things between squiggly brackets, and we're going to call this method ball towards player. And you're going to see it's going to show up in red, and that's because we haven't actually created the method yet. We're saying we want to move towards it, but we haven't created it. So let's go create it. And the way you create a method is you do this. You write the word void, and then you write the method name, and you always use title case for method names. So I'm going to call it void ball towards player. Now I'm going to do open close parentheses, and I'm not going to do a semicolon here. Let me make this a bit bigger. We're going to do open squiggly bracket, down 2 lines, and close squiggly bracket. And you can see this has now gone white because it recognizes this is a valid method name. And right under here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say ball towards computer. And semicolon, it's in red. Now we're going to create the method, and we're going to call it ball towards computer, and just like that. Okay, so now we need to come up with a way of checking whether or not this is going to actually score. So we're going to go up above the start method here and drop this down a couple of lines, and we're going to declare our first integer. So we're going to do, this is the way how you declare an integer up top. You write either the word private or public, and I'm not going to explain that yet. And you write int, just those 3 letters, and then you give it a name. And you can call it whatever you want, but you want to give it a descriptive name. So in this case, I'm going to call my integer player score % chance. And then I write semicolon after the end. And I'm going to do the same thing here, private int computer score % chance. And the way we structure our integers or our other variables, the first word is always all lowercase, and then every other word starts with an uppercase letter. Now we can save some space here, and rather than doing this on 2 lines, we can also just say comma computer score % chance. That's another way of doing it. It's valid, but I don't want to do it this way, because we're not actually going to make these private, we're going to make these public. And I'll show you what this means. And first of all, I'm actually going to declare these and give these an initial value of 50. So this basically, I'm saying there's a 50% chance we're going to score, and there's a 50% chance we're not going to score. By making these public, if we go back over here into our game and we click the game object, we can actually see on the right side under the inspector, we can change these values right here without having to go into our code. Now there's more to a variable being private or public than this, But if that is one of the differences, if we said private, we would not have the option to change this over here in the hierarchy. So that's just a way of making our lives a little bit easier. But this is still, in case we don't put anything there, it's going to be by default 50. Okay, so let's go into one of these methods, and we'll start with ball towards computer. Now, what we're going to have to do here is determine whether or not we are going to score. So obviously, we're going to want to use an if statement here, and this is where we're going to have to do a bit of thinking. So I'm just going to put a comment in here for now. We put comments by doing 2 forward slashes, and that puts it in gray. And comments are just notes to ourselves. They're not read by the system. We're going to say statement to check if player scores. And then anything else on that line that follows is going to be commented. So I'm just going to put the code in there as it would appear. And we're going to get some errors because this is a terrible place to put a comment, actually. So I'm not going to put the comment there at all. I'm just going to put the comment over here. Okay, now let's take a look at what we can possibly do to determine if we are going to score. So I'm going to write, we're going to need another integer, and we're going to have to somehow check if if we're higher than this 50% chance threshold of scoring. So we're going to write int score chance, and we're going to make this a random value. And the way we do a random value is like this. First of all, you write an equal sign here, so that says we're making this equals to something. And we're going to do int score chance equals random.range. And this is going to be a value between 1 and 100. Now Unity is a little weird. Unity starts counting at 0. So when we want a value between 1 and 100, or 0 and 100, rather, we have to actually make the maximum value 1 more than we want. So if we want 100, we have to write 101. So this will actually make it a random value between 0 and 100. And then we put a semicolon to declare that that is our score chance. So now what we're going to do is inside this if statement, we're going to say if score chance is greater than, what did we call our variable to score against the computer? If we start writing, it'll show up. Computer score percent chance. But no, this is the player scoring, so we actually want player score percent chance. Then we are going to basically score. And this little symbol, if you don't remember this from 3rd grade math class, that's our greater than symbol. So we're going to say print player scores a point. Great, so our player has now scored. But what if the score chance is less than the player score percent chance? Well, then we're going to say else, which means any other condition, open and close squiggly brackets, and do another print statement inside of here. Say the computer blocks the ball and sends it back towards the player. You may notice I like exclamation marks. Okay, now there is another variable we're going to need here. We're going to actually have to keep track of the score. So we're going to go back up here to the top, and we're going to write private int player score, comma, computer score. And by default, these are both going to start as 0. Now the way it's pretty easy to increment a value, if we do have the player score a point, we're just going to say here player score plus plus, and that increments it by 1. And actually I'm going to put that above the print statement, and we're going to show that right away. So if the player scores a point, we're now going to say score is, and then you close the quotation mark and you write the plus sign, and then you can put the actual name of the variable. So we're going to say player score, then again plus 2, and now we're going to put computer score. And now if we were to run this, it should actually show us what our current score is. So let's give that a try. Go into our console, I think we were going towards the computer. So C, Ball goes towards the computer. Player scores a point. Score is 1-0. Oh, great. Now we can't do anything beyond that yet, but that's okay. We're on the right track. Okay. Also we had this other problem up here. If we could just kind of call these infinitely, which isn't what we want. So here's where we're going to do a Boolean, and we're going to call this a Boolean private bool first shot. And again, by default, a Boolean is going to be false. So we're going to put this if statement within another if statement. So I'm going to drop this down a couple of lines to make it a bit easier to read. And we're going to say if first shot equals, and when we're doing a comparison, if we're comparing a first shot to a value of true or false, we have to use two equal signs. So we're going to say if first shot is equal to false, only then are we going to declare this if statement. So we're going to close this off as well with a squiggly bracket. And now we have to say within here, our first shot has been taken, so we are now going to declare our first shot to be true. And same thing here, first shot is going to be true. So basically what we're doing is if the first shot, only if we have not taken that first shot, we're going to use this first if statement, otherwise nothing is going to happen. Now what about once that first shot has been taken? Well, we're going to need another couple of Booleans here, and this is where I'm going to use some more commas, and I'm going to give this a couple of names, ball towards player and ball towards computer. So now we have three Booleans, and we can do some additional if statements here. So once this Boolean is in play, or once the ball is in play, let's finish up down here. We're going to go underneath, and we're going to say here ball towards player is equal to true. And now we can also do another print statement down under here. It's going to say print the ball is going back towards the player. Press space to see if it scores. Okay, now that we know the ball is in play back to the player, we know that our update function is going to be, we can use our update function rather to see if we're going to score. So we can write a second if statement here, and we can say if ball towards player. I just realized what I did here. I gave our Booleans and our methods the exact same name, which isn't a good idea. But you can tell which one is which because the method has a capital B and the Boolean has a small b. That was an accident. You should give them distinctly different names. But for now, I'm just going to leave this. Now, if we can just actually leave it like this, we could say if ball is towards player, and this would basically be the same as writing if ball towards player equals true. So this is just a short form. Now we have a second condition, and the way we can put two conditions in a single if statement is by writing the and sign twice. And here we can say if input.getKeyDown keycode dot space. So basically, if the ball is heading towards the player and we press space, then we can call ball towards player. And we do that by, again, writing ball towards player with the two brackets and the semicolon, and which would then call this method over here. Okay, let's just test that out one more time to make sure that there's no errors. And there are no errors, so I can press P, ball goes towards the player. We haven't done that part yet. Or I can press C, ball goes towards the computer, ball's going towards the player, press space to see if it scores, and I'm pressing space, but we haven't written anything else in there yet. But that is working for now. One more thing, when we set the ball towards send the ball towards the player, we also have to set this variable ball towards player to be false again. Okay, so I'll tell you guys what, I'm going to do a bit of a challenge here. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and write that ball to player method yourself. So go ahead and give that a shot. And as a bonus, if you can figure out how, set up a separate method or several methods to determine when the game is actually over. And as a hint, you can use some more if statements to do this. And I'm going to put that link in the video description, but there's some additional documents on using if statements if you need extra help with those. So pause the video and give that a shot. Alright, welcome back. How did you guys do? Did you figure it out? If you did, wonderful, and if not, good try. And you can just follow along now and watch how I do it. So I'm going to go back here into MonoDevelop, and I'm just going to show you my solution, make it a bit smaller to make this easier to work on for myself. A lot of this is actually just going to be copy-paste and changing a few things around. So I'm just copying the ball toward most of the stuff within ball towards computer, and I'm pasting that over here. And now we are just going to base it, wherever it says computer, really I'm going to make it say player and vice versa. So if score chance is greater than computer score chance, we're going to boost the computer score. Print computer scores a point. Player or score is computer. Actually, no, we want this to stay the same. Player score to computer score. Else the player blocks the ball and sends it back towards the computer. Ball towards computer equals true, and print the ball is going towards the computer. Press space to see if it scores. Now we're going to go up here within the update and copy this if statement. And we're going to say here, if ball towards computer and ball towards computer. And again here, ball towards computer. Okay, and a very last, but definitely not least, I change all those variable names correctly. Looks like I did. Well, if I didn't, we'll find out. Okay, so we're going to do an if statement within an if statement, and we're just going to say here, if the computer score is greater than, let's say, a score of 10, then we're going to call another method called game over computer wins. Actually, I'm going to make this lower for now, just for testing purposes. And similarly, I'm going to copy this over and go under here. Say if player score is greater than 3, game over, player wins. And now we have to go create these two separate methods that are currently non-existent. So I'm just going to copy one of these. And we're going to go at the very bottom. We're going to write a new method, and we're going to say game over player wins, open squiggly bracket, down 2 lines, close squiggly bracket. And I can see I'm getting an error here, so I know I did something wrong. And we're going to put the other one, game over computer wins. And again, open squiggly bracket and close squiggly bracket. Okay, now I can see if I run the program, I'm going to get an error. So class structure interface method must have a return type. And of course I had a brain fart. The reason it's in red is because I didn't write the word void before it. So everyone gets confused now and then. And now I'm just going to put one final print statement here and say print game over, you win, yay. 3 exclamation marks this time because I'm super happy. And next time, another statement, game over, the computer beat you. Oh no, better luck next time. There's still one more thing we have to do. So if we go up here back to where we put in the condition for the computer or the player to win, in fact, underneath both conditions, we have to drop one more line down here and write the word return. Now, return is going to end this method up here early, because if we don't write the word return and the game is over and the computer wins, it's still going to go on to set the ball back towards true, and then it's going to print that the ball is going back towards the computer even though the game is officially over. So by writing return, we're just going to say don't do this stuff down here and leave this method. So I'm also going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to write the word return and put the semicolons in. Okay, now let's go test this out. Now, one more thing, if you have the word collapse here, you're going to want to make sure that's not highlighted, because that's going to make our game not play properly, essentially, because this is a console game. So, press P if the ball goes towards the player, or C to the computer, goes to the computer. Click this area if nothing works. Ball goes to the computer blocks. Okay, let's now see how we're scoring. Score is, the computer scores a point. The ball is going back towards the computer. Press space to see if it scores. Player scores a point, 1-1. Okay, I can see that something weird is happening here. The code seems to be repeating itself, so I'm just going to pause the video for a moment and figure out why that's happening. Okay, this was a very interesting experience. I had to pause it actually for quite a bit to figure out what was going on, and I did a bit of testing, and what I found out, and this was a learning experience even for me, was that within these two if statements, the key code space was used in both of these instances, and because the code gets read so quickly, for just a brief moment, both this ball to player variable and the ball to computer were true, and space was being pressed at the same time. Even though it was just for like a single frame, it was enough for both of these if statements to be read in succession. So by changing the button input from space to return, which is the enter key on the second one, I was able to fix that problem. And also I just took the time to change my variable names in the Booleans from ball towards computer to ball to computer, just to differentiate them from the method name. So now if we go test that out, we can see how it looks, and we can see that when we play the game, I also put little lines here just to help read, make it so you could read the code a bit easier. It tells you to press enter, press space, and alternate, and it does work properly now, all the way until one of the entities has outperformed the other. So in this case, it looks like the computer beat me. But that's okay. How are you guys getting along in this? Is this making sense to you? Am I going too quickly? Is it too confusing? Or are you just loving it and learning something? Please let me know. I would absolutely love to hear. And I bet this is not what you expected to be doing in a course about learning Pong. Anyways, thanks for watching so far, and I will see you in the next video.